If good things come in small packages were a person, that person would be the indomitable Peggy A. Montes. A Chicago native, Peggy is the founder and CEO of the Bronzeville Children's Museum, the first and only African-American children's museum in the country. Appointed as the very first executive director of the Chicago Commission on Women by the late Mayor Harold Washington, Peggy is a mother, a teacher, a philanthropist, a grandmother, and for me and so many more, she's a mentor and friend. Join me and the incredible Peggy A. Montes in the arena right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Peggy A. Montes, Mother Montes to me. My gosh, I've been looking forward to this conversation with you. We talk a lot, and I always consider it as an opportunity to sit at the hem of your skirt. You are young at heart. You look about 20, and I've said to you that's because you are living the life you're supposed to live. You are living a life with meaning, and it's just clear to all of us paying attention. But let's begin at the beginning.
Okay.
Back in October 17th, 1936, and I know that makes Peggy 85, but again, the point of living well. But you were born October 17th, 1936. Tell me about the man and the woman who brought you into this world and raised you.
Well, to start with, believe it or not, I was a preemie. I did not weigh quite 2 pounds. In fact, they put me in a shoebox. And from that, I guess I just grew into a beautiful, wonderful giant.
You were a fighter from the beginning.
That's right. And so I was blessed to come into this world with very caring parents. We are a family of 5, believe it or not, but we were treated like spoiled children. And so with my mother was a stay-at-home mother. She was a volunteer. Anything that happened in our community, she was a part of. She was a part of, with my aunt, her sister, starting the first PTA in Medill Elementary School. And so I came up in a nurturing environment involved with culture. We were exposed at a very early age to everything culturally that the city of Chicago had to offer. Our summers were spent at the Art Institute, the Museum of Science and Industry, the Film Museum, the History Museum. So that's where I get my whole beginning in terms of working in the cultural environment. My father, because there were 5 of us, had to work 2 jobs. He worked for the train station and also for the steel mill. But by his being working to support us, we were really like privileged children. We never knew that we were, quote, poor, according to today's standard. We thought we were very rich because of my father and my mother. That's what they gave to us, a richness, a purpose of self, of who we were. And that has stayed with me all my life. So like I said, coming into this world, coming into an environment that was nurturing, that was helpful to us to achieve whatever we wanted to achieve, has propelled me to do this as I journey through my life.
Were you a quiet child?
No.
That's question asked, question answered. I would imagine, were you more personality-wise, your mother or your father?
I think definitely my mother. Okay. My mother was a very aggressive person, a leader. She did not take no. Okay. She was very positive, and that's really what she instilled in us, that no matter what we wanted to do, we could do it, and nothing could keep us from doing it. And also being in Chicago and raised within a racist environment, because like Chicago, even though it's a north city, it was still racist. But we didn't care about that because we were able to be able to go to those institutions where we didn't care about the
Your
color.
parents made you believe that
And so
you were everything.
we walked in and we didn't care, even though in many places you were really not welcome
Sure.
because you were black, but we didn't care. And that has always been my attitude. I don't care. If there's somewhere I want to go or do, I do it. But it was the beauty of having a special childhood that has enabled me to want to continue to help others, just like my mother and her sister help us develop into the personalities that we are today.
And you felt, it sounds as if, while you may have been financially middle class or lower middle class, you felt safe, protected, nurtured,
And rich.
told, and told that you could be and do anything you
That's
wanted to
right.
do. So you went to college, a college called Chicago Teachers College.
That's right.
It is now called Chicago State University.
That's right.
And you not only graduated and went on to teach, you have since, you were one of the first ever board of trustees for Chicago State University.
No, not the first one for Chicago State University, but I was like the second one for Chicago State University. Chicago State University came into being a university that would be governed by a board of trustees. And that happened later, but I was like the second one in terms of being the chairman of the board and responsible for our beautiful library. If you go there, you'll see my name on the plaque.
Yes.
But anyway, also, since I had I'm always over into everything. So I knew about HVAC. I knew about construction. And so in the building of the library, I was able to go onto the second floor. If you ever notice where the boardroom is,
Yes.
I went in to redesign the boardroom so that at the south end of the building, they had it all walled up. And I thought that that site was too beautiful to be covered up. So I worked with the architects and the engineers to redesign that room. So now when you go into that area, it's a beautiful open space.
And I'm assuming you didn't wait for permission to do it. You
No,
kind
I
of went
never
in and
wait
said,
for any permission.
It seems
If
to be a thing.
You know,
If you waited, you would not have had the life you had because you became a teacher. Why? What was it with all of the opportunity you just talked about growing up where your parents instilled in you that you could be any and everything and you chose to educate? What drove that motivation?
Well, the fact that I really wanted to help others learn and to grow and to develop their potential. And the best way you could ever do that would become a teacher. And I was a superior teacher. I had wonderful, disciplined students who understand the rules and could know that they too could do anything that they wanted to. Even today with my students, some of the students, they come by the museum. They are attorneys, they are doctors, they are teachers, and that's the beauty of seeing how you had input into their lives to help them understand that they have potential, they had potential. Whatever they decided they wanted to do, they could do. I noticed also when I not only taught, but I ended up opening up the Percy Julian Guidance Department because that's my role to help guide and to nurture people. And so opening up, before I got to Julian, I was, at that time they called them adjustment teachers. I like to adjust personalities. But being
Wow, that's what it was.
That's right. So being the adjustment teacher, which is really a title for counselor, it was my responsibility to make certain that the 8th graders go into the right high schools.
That they were ready.
And at that time, I had a dream. I wanted my boys, my smart boys, to go into St. Ignatius High School. And at that time, St. Ignatius was a very segregated high school, very few blacks, and it was only for boys. But I had 4 great, wonderful boys with wonderful minds, and that was my goal. And that's what I did. I got them into St. Ignatius, and in fact, I was able to attend the graduation. One of those students, he was so smart, he got a special scholarship to Executive in the East to that preppy school. He's an attorney. And so, like I said, I always focus on my boys, on the males, because that's what's missing about us in our culture, that we don't understand how the males are left out, the young boys are left out, but they have such potential. They are very creative. And it's up to us to be able to bring this out of them, to give them the assurance and the respect that they need to go on and do wonderful things.
So you made all of this incredible legacy of young people who are in this city and around this country doing amazing things, and I know it because I've seen it. But in 1978, you made a fairly significant pivot, and you began placing your considerable time and talent and energy into philanthropy and volunteerism. You became deeply involved at the time with DuSable Museum of African American History, and you actually served on the board there. You were the board chair from 1989 to 93. Is that where you met Margaret Burroughs?
No.
Did you meet her before?
I met Margaret Burroughs. I'm a proud graduate of DuSable High School. And that
She
is
says
where
with pride.
That's right. And that is where I met Margaret. Margaret, even though I never had a class with Margaret, but I always admired her because of her individuality. Margaret was the first person I had ever encountered wearing a natural. And so the students would always make fun of her, talking about, oh, that art teacher with the nappy hair. And I
wow.
never thought of it being nappy hair. I thought of her being a beautiful person, exposing her naturalness. And I became friends with Margaret at DuSable. And so I followed her into her opening up the museum on Michigan Avenue. Yes. And then a little later, after she was able to get the building in Washington Park, I decided I was going to come over and help her. And so I started out with the Women's Board, helping to raise money in terms of having a walk. It was called the History Walk that we started at Pioneer Court down on Michigan Avenue, came down Michigan Avenue, pointing out the buildings that the blacks had built along Michigan Avenue, ending up at DuSable. So that was my beautiful life with Margaret Burroughs. And I always admired her because she was fearless.
She was.
And she
was
tickled
before her
me
time.
because a lot of people didn't like her. But she loved me. She was really like my surrogate mother. And if people wanted something from DuSable and Margaret, they would come to me because they were afraid of her. And so working my way up, I became the first female president of the Board of Trustees. And my goal, along with Margaret's, was to make another section to DuSable Museum. And so by working with the representatives and senators, all those guys I knew anyway, because of Harold, I was able to get the money, almost $3 million, to build the Harold Washington wing.
It's
And
like listening to history just before my eyes.
But the funny thing about it, because I was the first female, you know how the guys are. And I had to work when we had our little game going in terms of how we were going to accomplish building that building, because most of the guys were not for it. I mean, here I am, Peggy, a female, and I was being able to do what they could not do because I knew how.
Yeah.
And so I'm a very strategic person, and I knew how to tell people what I wanted them to know and go on and do what I wanted to do until I had accomplished what I wanted, and then I would present it to them. And what could they do? Nothing.
At that point, it was too late.
It was too
Which it also is there is another theme here. There are themes of you walking into spaces that are not necessarily welcoming, but you have this unique ability to work with diverse audiences, even if they aren't rooting for your success. In 1997, the late Harold Washington appointed you as the first executive director of the Chicago Commission on Women. You shared with me what he said to the department heads as they were introducing you.
Okay,
Talk about that experience.
but it wasn't 1997, it was 1983, 85. Okay, and because when the first election that a black mayor
Wow.
won of the city of Chicago, and what happened, I coordinated what they call the Women's Network to get Harold elected. And we brought together all the diverse women all over the city of Chicago, everybody, young, black, Asian, Hispanic, everybody, to make them understand that it was time for a change in Chicago and that Harold was the one to make this change. And so working with the women, I understood what women needed. Women needed to be equal and in government, definitely in government, because the important positions were held by the men. But yet you had the women as secretaries who were really the ones running the departments, and that's really always the case.
Always.
The men are up there, they get the good money, but the hard workers are the women. So Harold understood what I did in terms of helping to get him elected. And I was like this. Once, before he got elected, I told him that there was something that we wanted as women. And once he became mayor, we wanted to have a women's commission to look into establishing equality and parity for the women. So we'd like to have women head of departments, women not just being secretaries, but being assistants, in the police department being superintendents, in the fire department getting more women into the fire department. And so those were the things that I knew we as women wanted. So when Harold made me executive director and commissioner of the Chicago Commission on Women, and I was part of the cabinet, and Harold and I were very good friends because he was a very humorous person. And I always referred to him as my Santa Claus, our Santa Claus, because he looked like Santa Claus to me. He was always so jolly. But anyway, I told Harold that what we needed was for women to have equality of jobs, because most of them are the breadwinners. You have single mothers who need the extra money like the men. They worked as hard as the men, but they never got the salaries. And that's even today.
Yeah, agreed.
But anyway, at the meetings, at the cabinet meetings, Harold never told me what to do because I knew what to do. Once I became a department head, I knew exactly what I wanted. And I wanted women to be head of departments. And Harold would tell the department guys, the heads, when Peggy calls to make an appointment, keep that appointment and give her what she wants. And that's how I was able to bring the women into the different departments and give them the equality that they needed. And I put out a brochure. I don't know if you had that brochure about how many women that we brought into government, head of budget, head of forestry, head of head of superintendent or whatever. But they got an opportunity.
We're living right now with the fruits of your labor.
That's right. Last year, the mayor appointed the first female black superintendent of the fire department.
A CSU alum.
That's right. And so if you go back and look at what we did when we first got into the fire department to increase the number of women, and we found out that women are smart. Yes, we are.
I could not agree more.
But the women didn't have the physical strength that they needed, you know, to climb the ladders and bring the hoses up and everything. But I set up a special program with the University of Illinois. So the women, when they passed the exam, then they actually went into this physical partnership so that they learned how to increase their body strength, upper body strength. And from there, we got more and more women into the fire department. So yes, last year when I saw her, I'm going like, hey.
You have to feel amazing. I mean, like we have, those of us on the sidelines, you have literally been in the arena. And that is what's been so incredible. I remember when I met you, I knew your name. And then when I met you and you began to speak and I went, there's an energy about this woman. And you were kind and you said to me, I'm rooting for you. If you need, you let me know what you need. And you looked up at me, but it felt like I was looking up at you. And you took, I still remember, you took my hand and you said, whatever you need. And you did not break that promise to me. And that you are Peggy Montes, Peggy A. Montes, awards named after all of that. But your mother Montes to me, where literally the audience should know, when I became the new executive director here, one of the first people to stop what they were doing, come to this building, and take my hand again and say, congratulations, I'm proud of you, I'm rooting for you, was one Peggy A. Montes. So you mean the world to me. You mean the world to the city, but to me personally, a transplant here, you are just such a glowing example to me of everything that is possible. You hold folks accountable, and you hold us accountable with love. Once you're done telling me and others where we could improve, you're done. You don't hold a grudge. You say what you mean what you say, and you just cannot undervalue how much that means. So I just want to take this opportunity in front of the city to say thank you so very much. And we're going to continue our conversation. But right now, I'd like to invite you to stay with me, and we will come back right after this and not play a game, but do something called Three for the Road.
Hey, I'm Destiny,
And I'm Ariana.
and we have a new exciting show coming to you on cantv.org.
Peace of Mind, also available on channels 19 and 21.
You don't want to miss it.
Peggy,
Yes.
we're going to end tonight with a little something called Three for the Road. I'm going to pose 3 questions to you. You're going to give me answers, and that's going to be that. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. First question. If you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, who would that person be and why?
Nelson Mandela.
Tell me why.
He would be the person because not only was he able to suffer and endure, but he persevered in terms of what he knew what was right, and that was helping to free the Africans in his country. And it took him many, many years. Just think he spent 27 years in the prison. And I was blessed to go to South Africa and also make a trip over to the island in which he was imprisoned. I did get a chance to meet him. I got a chance to meet Winnie Mandela when I was in South Africa. But also when he was here in Chicago, Jesse, Operation Push, brought Mandela here to speak. And there's a picture, I gave it to Bria, a picture of me standing behind Mandela with Jesse and Mandela. But when Mandela, the one thing that I really loved about him was the fact that I have a guiding poem, well, I have 2. And the main one is called Invictus. And I found out that that was the guiding poem for Mandela, Invictus. And it's a beautiful poem because it says to you that no matter what, you are the master of your soul. So nobody can conquer you. And Invictus, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit, from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. And that's what led him through the fight for equality of the Africans. And that's been a guiding focus for me in terms of making my journey through life. I'm unconquerable. Nobody can conquer me but me.
But you. That's
And so I hope that's number 1.
Oh, that's a fantastic answer. Oh my goodness, that might be the best one ever. But let's try again because I've got 2 more. Do you have any items on your bucket list? What have you not done that you want to do?
The one thing I would like to do, and my kids know, my grandkids, Bree and Paul, all of them know, I would like to return to China. I've been to China twice. I've walked that wall twice. And I haven't been there for over 10 years. But I would like to go back to witness the progress that they have made in China. China is, to me, a forgotten kind of country, but its values are of value to me and has always been in terms of the culture. The respect that they have for their elders. They don't have nursing homes or assisted living homes. As that person in their family gets older, that person stays with them and they take care of that person. And to me, that's the beauty. In America, we discard our elderly people, even though they were the ones who are responsible for you and everything that you might be. But their traditions, their culture has always impressed me. I've traveled the world. I've been to Russia, South America, West Indies, all these other places, South Africa. But China is the one place I would like to return to, just to witness the progress that they have made. So that's really the only thing.
Okay. My final question. Any regrets?
No,
Boom.
no. I've done the very best that I could. I've helped people that's really what I wanted to do. I've become the kind of person I'm proud of being. I'm a very blessed person. I have no wants for nothing. And my angels are still following me and laying the pathway for me. So no, I don't.
Okay.
I'm just blessed to be able to get up every morning, to have the wisdom. That's the one thing that God gave me is wisdom. Gave me the ability not to be emotionally concerned about things, but to understand and intellectually process what is going on around me. So I have a beautiful family, children, grandchildren, wonderful friends. What else could I ask for?
No regrets.
No regrets.
Agreed. Peggy, it is a pleasure. I knew it was going to go faster than I could imagine. I want to thank you. You know how I feel about you. I love you. I love you, but more than that, I respect you as one of the heroes. And your work's not done. I know you're going, for the next 30 years, the next 30-year chapter of your life is going to be amazing. Thanks again to our dear friend Peggy Montes for joining us in the arena tonight. And thank you, Chicago and beyond, for watching. I want to leave you with a bonus 3 for the road, courtesy of Buddha. 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Until next time, take good care of you and each other. Good night.
Beautiful.
Thank you, ma'am. Beautiful.
Beautiful. What you say, the truth cannot be hidden. And that's what I always tell people, whether they like it or they don't like
Yep.
it, I don't care.